Deformers are your friends. They help you move shapes around in a more intuitive way. So as I mentioned, there's multiple ways of moving things around, right? You can click something and move the dots by yourself, which is a lot of work. You can click something, select a bunch of dots, and then move them, which is great, but it's not always the best solution. Or you can use a deformer. So what a deformer is it's essentially, let me just show you really quick. So what a deformer is, it's essentially just a big box that goes around your mesh, and you're able to manipulate it. So you can move it, you can squash it in multiple directions, you can warp it using these green lines right here, and you can do a bunch of crazy stuff. You can do a bunch of crazy stuff, and this is essentially how you're able to rig models easily. So let me show you how to structure your deformers, because the way that it's structured will affect how the model is rigged and how easy it is to rig your model in the end. So there's two types of deformers, first of all. There's the warp deformer, which is what I just showed you, and there's also a rotation deformer. What a rotation deformer is that it allows you to rotate a specific shape. So this is usually used for arms or the neck. So if you make a rotation deformer based on a part, say the arm, you are then able to rotate that part from the axis of where you created it. So deformer structure can be daunting looking, but I will take you with me step by step and we'll get through this together. So you usually want to make your deformers by going biggest to smallest. The biggest deformers will be body X, Y, Z, and the breath deformer. And these are all warp type deformers. So body X is when your body moves left or right. Body Y is when you move up or down. And body Z is when you move close or far away, like a forward or back. And breath is just like a very subtle breathing animation. So usually it involves the chest going up and down or the shoulders moving up and down ever so slightly in a loop, and that will give your model a little bit more life. You can also add other small animations in the breath kind of parameter, but we'll get to that in a much later video. So to make your first deformer, you're gonna wanna click the warp deformer tool. Make sure you don't have anything selected, like click outside the box, don't select anything, and then go to this tool. So this tool is the create warp deformer tool, and it'll allow you to create one of those big box boys. So open that, and then you're going to want to edit the stuff in this box. So leave this as a root part so that it doesn't connect to anything for now. And then you're gonna wanna name it body X. Nope, I can't type. Hold on. Body X. There we go. And then you're gonna hit continuous creation. And then you're gonna wanna name this one breath. Hit continuous again. Name this one body Y. And then one more time and make this one body Z, and then click create. All right, so now that's it. You basically created your first big set of deformers, and they're all nicely nested into each other, as you can see in the deformers panel on the side. So if I select them all, now you can see they're around my model. We want to make sure that they're around the entire thing and they're leaving room. So right now you can see body X is kind of cutting the ears off a little bit, as well as the bottom part. So we're going to want to select all of our deformers that we just made and drag the red point so that it goes all the way around. You can kind of align it to the canvas if you want, or you can make it a little bit bigger depending on how your model looks, but it's better to have more breathing room for these things in general. It also helps to have them kind of a little more centered. So now you have your big boy deformers. Congratulations. That's it. Most other deformers that you make will fall under these big deformers, and making the big ones to the smaller ones just makes your life a lot easier so that you can manipulate more of your body and then go into the details only if you need to. All right, next let's add our rotation deformers. So there's two ways to do so, and I'll show you both, but there's one way that I prefer. So The rotation deformers are usually for your neck and your arms. They could also be for other things if you have parts that do rotate. It's very model dependent, as I said again. So the first way is to just do the create rotation deformer and use that tool. So I'm going to click the neck, and then I'm going to click create rotation deformer. It's going to open a little window. The destination part will be determined because you clicked the neck already, and then you're going to want to name it head rotation, and then click create. So now you have a rotation deformer on your neck. Great. However, if you try it out, you're going to see that it's going to rotate from the middle, which is not generally how we want our neck to work. So if you want to move the point at which it rotates, you're going to hit Control on your keyboard and hold it, and then click and move the point in the middle around. And then you're going to need to put it kind of near the bottom of your part of your neck. That's about right. And then now see, when we rotate it, it's going to rotate just how necks work usually, which is from the bottom. The method that I prefer is the rotation deformer creation tool. So how this works, again, you can select a part, click on this, and then it'll allow you to directly draw where you want your rotation deformer to go. So I select kind of where I imagine the arm, like the shoulder joint would be, click, and then drag, and then you want to drag it kind of along the arm so that the circle covers your shoulder. And then you're going to let go, and then let's test to see how it looks. So yeah, that's generally how I want my arm to move, is from that point. Do the same with the other arm. And then also it helps just to undo any kind of edits or movements that you make, just so that, you know, your model is reset back to normal. So those rotation deformers that you just made don't have names, and we're going to want to edit that so that you remember what they're called. So click on them again. You can find them either by clicking on the part or clicking on the area over here where under the Deformers tab. So this first one was just called body number 1 rotation, but we actually want to call it whatever arm this is. And remember, in Live2d, everything is your opposite. So this is my left side as I'm facing it, but it's my model's right side. So we're going to call it arm R rotation. And then for the other side, we're going to go here again, click the rotation deformer, and then we're going to name it arm L rotation up here in the inspector section. Okay, hit enter, and then it locks in that name. And now we have our big kind of basic set of deformers. For almost any model is going to have these. However, they're not exactly in the correct order. So normally everything should be within body Z, which is the biggest, the daddiest deformer. However, these ones are kind of floating above it, and that's not what we need. So we're going to want to move these around, and you can move them around just by clicking and dragging them in the deformer panel. You're going to want to put the head rotation inside of the breath deformer, and then you're going to want to put the arm rotations inside of the body X deformer. So now that those are in the correct order, now is kind of the long and tedious part of creating deformers for all the smaller parts of your body. Not necessarily everything needs a deformer, though it does help, but generally speaking, I use deformers for things that would move a lot. So for example, the hair moves a lot, the head will move a lot, the ears might move a lot, and the booba might move a lot. So those are kind of the main parts that I would make deformers for. So there's multiple ways you can make deformers. One way is by doing what we did earlier, which is making sure that you don't have anything selected. Click Warp Deformer Creation button. Name it whatever you want it to. So for example, I'll name this Booba Deformer. Or Booba Warp, actually. And click create, and then it's gonna create just a really big box, and then you can click and drag the corner points so that it kind of generally follows the shape of the booba while leaving a little bit of room. And then once that's in a good place, and put it within breath, then you can put the booba part inside of that deformer. So right now, since there's nothing inside of this deformer, if I edit it, it's not actually going to manipulate my booba. Once I click and drag this booba part into the deformer, now it will. Oops. Yeah, now I can give myself really wide booba. Just undo that really quick. Yeah, so that's generally how deformers work. That's kind of the safer way of doing them. But if you want a faster way of doing them, you can just directly click on the part. Say I'll click the head, and then you can click on the same button again and name it to head XY create. And then it's just going to automatically create a deformer that's your head shape. The only caveat to this is that it's already going to have it inside, right? So if you want to change it in a new way, it's harder because the part is already in there. So your head is in head XY. You can also have multiple parts within a deformer. Say I want my head and also the line part of my head in head XY. I can click that, just drag it in there, and now it's in there. So now I can move both at the same time. Within head XY, I also am going to want a deformer for head Z. And here you can see when you add it, you can add it as the parent of the selected object, which means that head XY is going to go into head Z. You can add it as a child, which means that the new one would go into head XY, or you can set it manually. Typically, you're going to set it as a parent or as a child, depending on what order you make your deformers in. I usually do biggest to smallest, but you can do whatever way you want, and because you can always reorder them later in the deformer panel. So click set as parent because you want Z to be bigger than XY, create, and now I have two deformers for head. And then you can just drag head under head rotation, okay? So now you'll see, since the head deformers that we made are underneath the head rotation deformer, if I rotate the deformer, it's gonna move the head along with the neck, which is kind of cool. I'm also going to create a rotation deformer for the head itself. Create rotation deformer, draw it from the chin up. Head Z goes into the rotation deformer. And I'm gonna name it like face rotation. And now I can also rotate my head a little bit independent of my neck. Next, we're going to make a deformer for the eyeball. So you're gonna wanna select the eyeball, create warp deformer, and call it eyeball warp. Great. Same thing for the eyebrow. Select it, click create warp deformer, and call it eyebrow warp. And then each hair part will need a deformer as well. So click the hair and create warp deformers for all of these parts too. Hair. I feel like I'm trying to spell two words at once and they just kind of get mangled. Whoops. Bum, ba-dum. Okay, so I made a bunch of deformers, but now my deformer list looks kind of whack. So we're gonna change that now. All of these new deformers are not within the big boy deformers, but we need to put them in the big boy deformers. So select them all and move them into, so anything that's related to your face is gonna wanna go into head rotation. So that's your ears, iris, eyebrow, eyeball, fringe, and hair. So all that stuff is gonna go into your face. And then select all of the other small parts that don't have a deformer but are also part of your face and move them into the face deformer as well. So I have these hair accessories, I have all my lash parts, I have my blush, my nose and my mouth parts, and my little gem. So all of those parts I'm going to want to move into face rotation. And if I double check to make sure that they're in there, I can check the rotation deformer and see that my whole head moves. Great, awesome. But actually, when I did that, notice how my ears didn't move with my face? That means my ears are in somewhere else that they should not be. So let's go find them. If I go down here, I see ears warp are one level outside of the right deformer. So I click and drag them, put them into face rotation. Right, and now if I select face rotation and try it again, there you go. Now all my face things are here. Oh, my earrings, I forgot my earrings, hold on. And so for all these straggler parts, I got my bell necklace, I got my body, and I have my skirt. So I want to select all of those and move them into body X. Let's review everything that we just made to clarify, because that was a lot. Feel free to pause the video anytime and kind of look over your structure and see if it's the same. So first, the big daddy deformer is body Z. Next, inside of it is body Y. Inside of that is breath. Inside of that is head rotation and body X. And inside of body X, I have my body parts, so my bell, my torso kind of area, my skirt, and my arms. Arm rotation deformers, each with an arm inside of it, right? And I also have my booba warp deformer with my booba inside of it. And then next, everything is going to be in my head rotation, pretty much. So under head rotation, I have my neck, and then I have my face rotation deformer. And then in my face rotation deformer, I have all the other parts. So I have my hair accessories, I have my lash parts, I have my eye parts, I have my blush, I have my nose, I have my upper and lower lip, and my mouth parts. I have like a little gem on my forehead, and I have my earrings. As well, I have warp deformers for my hair parts, and my eyeball part, and my eyebrow part. My iris as well. I have my head XY with my kind of the line of my head as well as my face. I have my ears in their own deformers, and then I also have the rest of my hair, so the back of my hair in a deformer as well. That's kind of the full structure. It's a lot, but once you get this part in, it's just setting you up for success for the rest of the rigging process. You've done it! Yay! I'll be going over parameters next, which is actually how we get these parts to track your face and move, and then we can go over how to rig things part by part. Stay tuned for future tutorials, and don't forget to don't subscribe to my channel, because if I get 1,000 subscribers and become a YouTube partner, I'm gonna have to make a body pillow of myself, which I promise to do, but I don't necessarily want to do. But I keep my promises, okay? So don't subscribe. And for those of you that don't know, I stream art on twitch.tv/mononoke draws. Feel free to ask me any pertinent questions about art or Live2d that you may have over there. That's all for now, and I welcome you to visit the onsen at any time. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you had a lovely stay. Bye!